Okay, so in this screencast, I'm going to discuss some of the commonalities that exist um, between homophobia, ableism, and religious bias. But first, I kind of wanted to start with a definition of the three. Homophobia is the fear of gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and queer people. Ableism is the systematic exclusion and discrimination against people with physical, intellectual, or developmental disabilities. And then religious bias is treating a person or group differently because of the particular beliefs which they hold about a religion. So the first commonality that I identified across the board was persecution of these three different groups. So the fear of gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and queer people. As well as people with disabilities and those who practice certain religious or who practice certain religions. So the fear of those groups have led to repeated instances of both historical and modern day persecution. Some examples of this would be the to this day bullying of gay and bisexual students in schools. It's something that is a major issue, and because of it, the instances of things like suicide in gay teenagers is just through the roof, and it's heartbreaking because it's something that is still going on in schools today. A more historical example of persecution of those with disabilities is the U.S. eugenics practices of the turn of the century, early 1900s, in which the eugenics movement, they sought to forcefully sterilize those that they didn't want to pass on what they thought of as undesirable traits. And so a lot of these people were sterilized against their will. And then, of course, an example of persecution against religion would be the Holocaust. So another commonality that I identified was anti-blank, so anti-gay, anti-Muslim, anti-disabled people, persons, either rhetoric, like political rhetoric against them, or legislation against those people. The first would be Proposition 8 in California, which was when gay marriage was voted against. Example 2 would be Trump's more recent remarks that all Muslims should be banned from entering the country. And then example number 3 for me was kind of like an omission, in that the American with Disabilities Act wasn't passed until 1990, which like blows my mind. And then the last commonality is that I think, although it might seem like an obvious one, is that the fight still continues for all three of these groups to avoid things like homophobia, ableism, and religious bias. So those are the commonalities that I identified.